As the months and years go by, the wild, steamy sex nights change to evenings of watching the boob tube in flannel PJs on opposite sides of the bed. So here's the question, why are so many couples not doing it these days? If you don't have a good sexual relationship, it registers as 90% on the importance scale. And when it's good, it only registers at 10% of what's important in the relationship. So it's powerful in its absence. Today, we're going to get to the bottom of those lost libidos and tell you how to have more sex in your life with the help of TLC's Shalom in the Home, Rabbi Shmuley Boteach. Okay, so we got a rabbi talking about having sex. It's not where I would think. I mean, it wouldn't be my first place to go if I had questions about this. Yeah, so what's up? Why do you think people aren't having sex so much? You've actually studied this, written about it? What's going on?
Well, Dr. Phil, I think there are three great misconceptions in our society about sex. The first is, if we flood the culture with all these sexual images, we're actually going to be sexier. That's not true. Sex works with mystery. It actually thrives behind shadows. Number two, we all thought that sex should be goal-oriented. It should all be about orgasm, when really sex is about anticipation. It's about building on a slow burn so that you want more of it. It's not goal-oriented, it's means-oriented. And the third thing is, we all think that sex is of the body. That if our sex life is dying, if I go on the treadmill, or if I get all kinds of surgical procedures, I'll look more attractive, I'll have more sex with my husband. That's also not true. Sex is primarily of the mind.
But there are a lot of women that say that they don't want to have sex. They say, I want to have sex, but I just don't want to. I'm tired, I got kids, I got problems. He's a schmuck. And, you know, we used to get along, but now, you know, there's a lot of women have said to me that they don't want to. I don't mean they said it to me because I was asking. I mean, let me get that right. It came out way wrong, didn't it? I've heard a lot of women say that they don't even want to have sex. So what's up with that? How do we change that?
Yeah, you know, it's actually interesting because we have this idea in our society that's the men who always say to their wives, how about sex tonight? And she says, not tonight, I have a headache. And yet the man can have an axe lodged in his head and he's still ready. You know, it's actually not true. Women are much more sexual than men. So when women are telling you things like this, Dr. Phil, that they're not interested in sex, it's because somehow their husbands extinguish their libido. Look, when they don't understand that a woman's libido is more like a convection oven, needs to be warmed up a bit, and he just thinks she's a microwave, and he's gonna nuke her. You know, the net result is that, you know, don't complain if the sex is half-baked when you haven't taken the time to warm up the oven. Now, I'm actually seeing, you know, a reverse. It's quite amazing. You mentioned at the beginning of the show that in these tough economic times, sex is actually on the decrease, and that's true. It's men today who aren't touching their wives. I receive so many emails from women who are trying to describe the excruciating nature of lying there naked in bed night after night, and your husband thinks that you're some sort of mannequin. You don't need to be touched, you don't need to be fondled. Rather than playing with your assets, this guy's playing with a remote. And
one of the problems that I see is when people start being moms and dads, they stop being friends and lovers. They just think, oh, I've got a higher calling, this is more important. And so they let that crowd everything out, and I think that's an all-around bad deal. So how do we rekindle all of this? I mean, how do we get this back going?
Well, first of all, there's the practical, and then there's the more erotic. Practical is simple. You know, we have to minimize television watching in the bedroom. I mean, come on, is it really fair for a wife to have to compete against 500 channels of TV and all the...
I don't know, I think it's reasonable.
Well, you're sure excluded, of course, yes.
Is she smiling? All right, go ahead.
And then also we need to create function-free zones. You just mentioned that after people become parents, they actually start talking about who's going to take the kids to ballet and who's going to pick up the dry cleaning, and they don't communicate as a man and a woman. 9:30 p.m. and on should be a function-free zone. But what I'm also more focused on is the need to bring back these erotic principles. For example, one of the things that kills off sexual desire more than anything else is the loss of novelty. We all need new things to make us excited. We read the news, not the olds. So the same thing is true in our sex lives. Novelty does not mean something horizontal novelty. You need something pornographic. You need new flesh. Novelty can mean that you probe the erotic mind of your spouse. I wish that husbands would give their wives erotic interrogations. Ask her about her fantasies. Women have elaborate sexual fantasies, not like the male fantasies, which are very pornographic and very straightforward.
So women have erotic sexual fantasy. You
Very
said
erotic.
complex and erotic?
Yes.
Okay, such as?
I think husbands would be taken aback by the degree to which their wives fantasize about other men. And they hide this from their husbands because they don't think that the very brittle male libido can handle it. But interestingly, if the husband and
Well,
wife...
that is tough on men. You ask your wife, you want to have sex tonight? No, I can't really think of anybody.
Well, that's a lot better than the men. 80% of husbands admit to thinking about other women while making love to their wives. So here you are in the closest physical proximity to your wife, but in your mind, you're doing a guest appearance on
80%?
the Victoria's Secret fashion show.
80%?
So, 80%, yeah.
So that means there's 20% of us
Or a
that
lot.
don't do that. All
Oh,
right.
that's a good answer.
All right, well, let's talk about this with a guest, okay? I mean, let's do an actual application of these, what I think are excellent principles. My first guests, Joy and Mark, have been married for 22 years. Now, they say they haven't had sex in almost 4 years. That's 48 months. Now, Joy says that she is tired of always being the one to initiate sex and then get rejected. Now, recently, while crying about this, she logged on to drphil.com and sent me this home video.
How long has it been since we were passionate with each other?
We call this little hallway here the decompression chamber. I'm pretty sure what decompresses out of you when you're walking through here is any type of passion. The last time we made love in this bed was never.
The bedroom my wife is demanding.
Last time that I had sex that I truly enjoyed was January 1st, 1988.
Before I got married, sex was a game. Now sex is very limited.
Nothing happens anywhere in the house, not on the back porch, not on the front porch, not on the dryer. I'll just do it anywhere at this point.
The amount of sex should probably be either every other day or every day.
At least 3 to 4 times a week. I mean, keep it spicy.
Once a week.
It's a couple times a week.
45 minutes to an hour.
I'll probably just go 15 minutes, basically.
Well, we're talking about sex today, so ask your children to go play in the other room now. I'll wait. Okay, now, we have the rabbi here today, and he is the author of the Kosher Sutra. Now, he says, most of us that are not Jewish thought kosher just had to do with hot dogs.
Yeah, well, the Kama Sutra is the world's most famous sex book, and it gives you all these ideas for positions, but it misses the most essential ingredient, which is if you have no desire to implement even one of those positions, then what's the point of the book? The Kosher Sutra is the step before the Kama Sutra.
Okay, and this is not just for those of the Jewish faith. This is for everybody. Joining us are Joy and Mark, who've been married for 22 years. Now, Joy says the last time she had great sex with Mark was 1988. Now, Mark, I'm sure that makes you feel just wonderful.
Yeah, it did. I did not see that tape before it came in.
Yeah. So here you are on national television,
Right.
and she's saying it's been 21 years since things were great. So what's he need to do that he's not doing?
Anything.
And it's okay to laugh about this. I mean, really,
it
you
is.
gotta.
We have to have a sense of humor
You
about
do,
it.
because we want to change this, and you're not going to change it by fighting about it, being a tug of war about it. You're going to change it by getting a good spirit about it. And I mean, if you want to laugh your way right back into the bedroom, then we'll laugh with you all the way down the hall. We'll stop at the bedroom door, but we'll laugh with you down the hall, right?
Yeah, well, I want to ask you a question, Mark, if you don't mind. I understand that you're a bit afraid of having sex because you've had a few heart attacks, correct?
5 heart attacks.
5 heart attacks. So you're afraid
That didn't make the tape, by the way.
Let me make the tape. Okay, and you're
That's why
afraid
we're bringing it up.
And you're afraid that if you have sex with your wife, you might die.
That is.
Which is, by the way, what a way to go. I mean,
Well, yeah. And it's.
if you have to go, you might as well go like that.
Right. That thought has been an issue in my life that my condition was very fragile for a while. And just the thought of anything, sex or anything aggressive, but to have sex and just imagining her having to, you know, you think that through for a second. It's funny at first, but you think through the ramifications. It's not what you want to leave your wife. It's the last thing that happens, moving your cold corpse off the top of her.
Right, you don't want her to roll you off.
Well, it depends what happened before that.
You say you're a Christian family, and I see there's so much love between you. But you know, Dr. Phil, I see this very often, that couples have love, but they don't have any lust. Now, what's the 10th commandment? You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, which means you sure as heck ought to be coveting your own wife. Lust is an essential part of a relationship. And what your wife is saying to you is, I need you to touch me. I need to feel attractive. I need to be a woman. I'm not just the mother of your children. Have you ever described to him what it's like, what you feel like when you lie in bed and he won't put his hands on you?
I do. I try to explain it, you know, I try to let him know, but it's usually out of frustration. And I get mad, and then I say things that I probably shouldn't say, and then I make him...
Like what?
Like, you just don't know how it feels. You don't know what it's like.
You put him down?
Yeah, I have.
Okay. Which just emasculates him even further, making him feel even less sexy. So, in other words, you don't feel a lot of sexual desire, correct, Mark?
Well, I do at times, but another issue that I have is the variety of different medications actually cause a lack of, it works counteractive to sexual desires. I can stop taking certain medicines, and I'm a whole different man when it comes to sexuality.
Well, you're actually taking 4 different medications that are kind of generally at cross purposes with libido.
Correct.
But even with that, and first off, understand that the definition of sex, and I think you would certainly agree with this, is not just the act of intercourse, but it also has to do with all of the caring and sharing between you, the holding, the fondling, the touching, the being together in a physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, every way. Would you agree with that?
I definitely.
And you get none of that in any category at this point, correct?
Well, the hotel yesterday, but other than that...
But Dr. Phil's point is a brilliant point, and it's probably the most important point. You need to expand the definition of sex. What I've heard from you so far, Mark, are a heck of a lot of excuses. You're going to drop dead if you have sex. Your medications prevent you from feeling any kind of libido because you keep on focusing on the body being sexual. And Dr. Phil is saying to you, what does that have to do with a half an hour of kissing? Are you saying your mouth doesn't operate? What does that have to do with giving your wife long sensual massages and arousing her desire and becoming excited by seeing how you can stoke those fires of desire? You've narrowed sex to such a confined definition that you now can dismiss it because you're saying, I'm sorry, my body's not up to it.
All right, we got to take a break. Joy is coming to show Mark where she would like to get cozy, and it's not in the bedroom. We're going to find out where when we come back.
My Valentine's card is laying right here on the seat, unsigned, and now it's Wednesday after Valentine's Day, and we're just going to keep it in the seat next to us until, I guess, next Valentine's Day.
Well, according to Joy, it's been 21 years since the last time she had great sex with her husband, Mark. Now, Mark says, I didn't hear that before I got here. Mark blames his low libido on his heart. He's had 5 heart attacks. He is currently on 9 different medications, 4 of them that I researched that certainly work at cross purposes to the libido. But that doesn't give him a free pass, not in my opinion or in the rabbi's opinion. Mark's cardiologist says he has the green light to get back in bed with his wife. Now, Rabbi Shmuley is joining me today to help this couple put the passion back into their lives. Now, he says 1/3 of all American marriages are platonic, which is pretty much what we have between you two, right? And you don't want that.
Oh, no.
You don't want celibacy.
No.
You want to be intimate with your husband, and so you're here to change that.
Yes, I have a lot of desires that aren't being met.
Well, do you talk to your husband about those desires? In fact, let me put a very frank question to you. I don't think there's a woman on earth who is being sexually neglected by her husband or romantically neglected who does not find some man, in however innocent a manner, to make her feel attractive or desirable. It could be the guy at the checkout counter that you always go to who notices your nails. It could be the guy at the hairdresser who tells you what beautiful hair you have. Is there someone like that who compliments you, makes you feel sexy and attractive?
Not off the top of my head, but I'll tell you what scared me. The night that I wrote into Dr. Phil, I was watching TV and one of those online dating things came on, and it scared me that it even entered my mind to see, I wonder if there's somebody out there that would. And because of my spiritual background, I know that's off limits, you know. And I know I'm married to Mark for better or for worse. We've been through so much in our marriage that we have overcome.
What you're saying, Joy, is that you can't live without affection. It's like food, clothing, and shelter. It's not a luxury, it's a necessity. Now, when you start saying, hey, I would never go in that direction, of course we know you're not going to do that. But he needs to hear from you that you're beginning to think of other guys because you're a woman. You're not a cleaner, and you're not a mom, and you're not a maid. And the more he hears that, the more an erotic principle is introduced into this marriage. You know what it's called? Sinfulness. Believe it or not, one of the reasons that marriage becomes so boring is that it's so predictable, so routine, and so monotonous. Sinfulness means there's a part of you that can't be controlled, that can't be tamed, that he has to win over. It introduces the second erotic principle. It's called the chase. Most husbands get bored of their wives because they think that they can ignore them and they're not going anywhere. You just said it yourself. You just said, my spiritual commitments mean that I'm never going to do anything. So he can continue to watch TV, ignore you, not buy you a Valentine's Day gift because you're not going anywhere. He needs to discover the woman in his wife.
Okay, hold on. I mean, you're talking about her with all this, and I think that's all good advice, but I have a question for you. What's it going to take for you to reinvent yourself sexually? Because I believe days turn into weeks, weeks turn into months, months turn into years, and you've just kind of gotten out of the habit.
That's where we are.
She has said that she's like a virgin again, right?
Oh, well.
Pretty much, yes.
We won't go there. But
Up until last night in the hotel.
Well, you gotta, and one of the things we talked about last night was I looked at her and said, how did we get here?
Yeah.
We've been doing some things the past couple of nights and seeing some things, and I think we're on the right road to starting. And I think it's important to say this green light from my doctor came in January. So there's been a long medical road, and sometimes everybody wants to discount that. But it's a road.
No, wait a minute.
Yeah, it is. No. You wrote it off, and that's not true.
No, that's not right at all.
I'll trade places with you. If you want to see just what it's like. I'd like to see. No, I'm talking about the heart attacks.
No, that's not what I did. In fact, what I did was say that you had, in fact, out of all your medications, that there were 4 of them that were counter to the libido.
Yeah.
I'm the
but
one
you said
that
I was
acknowledged
hiding behind the fact that I'd had these
No,
heart
actually,
attacks.
he said that. I didn't say that. My question was, what do you need to do to reinvent yourself? You can play the victim, but thank God you do have a green light now.
Yeah.
I'm not doing any kind of review of the 8 years that you have been through. What I'm saying is the only time is now.
Right, you're absolutely right.
What can you do to change this?
I think we've made a big start.
Because the book is quite good.
The book is good. This is a pretty big step right here.
Yeah, no, listen, you got to give him a lot of credit for being here.
Yes. Oh, I know.
On the Dr.
That
Phil
was the
show.
first
You got to give him a
question
lot
to
of credit
everybody.
for reading the book.
Yeah.
I assume you give him pretty good credit for last night.
Yeah. Real good credit.
And really, the truth is that I think you get to a point where you have to behave your way
Absolutely.
back to it. We behave our way out of it. And sometimes people will say, look, if I've got to schedule it, if I've got to plan it, if I've got to set up a routine, that's not natural. I want it to be natural. The stranger it feels, the worse you need to do it. You need to truly behave your way back to success. The rabbi, I think one of your great points is compartmentalize. You said after 9:30, there's no functions. You're not moms and dads and bill payers and problem solvers. That's your time, and you really need to allocate that and behave your way back into it. And if it feels awkward, then seduce your husband. Don't reject her. Seduce your wife. Behave your way back into it. What do you want to say?
I'm not saying that your health is not an issue. We're all afraid of death. But notice that love and fear are opposites. The quintessential posture of love is the hug. It's where you extend your extremities to invite someone into your life and you expose your soft underbelly. and you're making yourself very vulnerable. Fear is the opposite. It's when you bring your extremities to protect your torso and you devolve back into an embryonic position. You're going backward as a human being. You gotta let go. You're gonna be fine, and you don't have to make it aggressive. She's not looking for you to swing through the chandeliers or maybe she is.
Well, actually,
but you can have sensual massages.
Actually, that's not exactly true. Because we ask you, where are some ideal places that you would like to have sex? Okay? And can we have the first one? Okay, the bathtub, the back of the car. Those are two places you said you would like to have sexual encounter, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and what kind of car do you have?
It's a HHR. It's got a big back, like, an air mattress could fit back there.
Okay. Okay.
See, you scoped it out.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so it's not a chandelier. It's not a chandelier, but it is a car.
And the windows are tinted.
But the idea is you have a very willing spirit and a very loving and devoted husband.
Yes, I do.
What happened is you really lose momentum, and lifestyle is a momentum. It's like a bowling ball rolling downhill. It takes a lot to turn it and get it rolling back uphill. We really wanted to give you a wake-up call. That's why we gave you the book in advance of the show so you could read it. And the book I'm talking about is the Kosher Sutra. And I do mean that as a shameless plug because I think it's a terrific book that the rabbi has written. And it is a teaching tool. I mean, y'all are such a delightful couple. Yeah. We want couples at home to look at it and say, hey, I'm him, I'm her, we're them. We need to do what they're talking about. I really believe if you have a good sexual relationship, it's about 10% because you enjoy it, it's part of what you do, and you go on to all the other aspects of your relationship. So if you have a good relationship, maybe it's 10%. If you don't, it's 90% because the closeness, the intimacy is gone. All right, we're going to keep talking about this, and we'll hear. I want y'all to hear what we say with the next couple. We're going to pull it all together at the end of the show. Bully, dumb bleep, selfish, lazy, worthless. Those are just some of the words my next guest uses to describe her husband. They've only been married 4 months. She says there's a whole lot of fighting and not a lot of loving going on in their bedroom. We don't want them to have days turn into weeks to months to years. We'll talk to them when we come back.
If you're trying to get a girl in the mood, take them out to dinner, drive fast in the car, get them excited.
Pair of shoes.
Women love shoes.
Love my shoes. He plays the guitar, classical guitar. So when he starts playing that, you know.
Yeah. Once the guitar comes out, the come on.
No. Maybe you should start playing that guitar some more then, buddy.
Oh, okay.
Well, today we're talking about how to have more sex and less fighting with Rabbi Shmuley, author of the Kosher Sutra. Now, my next couple, Kim and Adam, say they fight more than they have sex. Kim says 9 out of 10 times they go to bed mad. Take a look at their home video.
I am going to be 25 years old. I should be having sex like rabbits.
Okay, we are going into our sanctuary where we do a lot of sleeping. Here is the lingerie that I bought for our honeymoon. And notice the tags are still on it because we did not get a honeymoon. We came home and was asleep by midnight. See that thing right there? That's what my husband hold on to at night, not me.
5 adjectives I'd use to describe my wife are loving, caring, fun, outgoing, crabby.
This is where Adam complains that I don't spend enough time.
And I also had something else to show you, what I got for Valentine's Day.
These are beautiful flowers that I got for Valentine's Day from my dad.
Dr. Phil, we need your help badly.
Okay, now, y'all have been married how long?
4 months.
4 months. You've been together longer than
Yes,
that, but you've
3
been married
years.
4 months.
Yes.
Was it this way before you got married?
Absolutely not. I would say probably after our second son was born. We had our second son before we were married, and after that kind of went
Okay,
downhill.
so the sex did dry up before the marriage.
Yes.
So why did you get married?
Because I love him. I really do, and
How do you know?
I mean, I don't.
I mean, if you're not connecting with him and all you're doing is fighting, how do you see past that to the love?
It's difficult to see at this time. I mean, really, because we do fight more than we do anything. Absolutely.
So what's your story? Why are you not involved here?
I just think a lot of times when I work, after I get home, I'm too tired, or I'll come home and the house will be a mess, and then I get aggravated because
You get home from
She
work
doesn't
and you're
work.
too tired. How old are you?
28.
28?
Yeah. I work 12-hour shifts, though. I drive, it takes, by the time my day
You
ends,
should
it's
be
been like
swinging
14,
through the door
15
on a
hours.
rope at 28.
And what Rabbi said about, making excuses, I think that's all, it's just a bunch of excuses that have just piled up and piled up. And
Adam, come on. You say you're too tired? You know how many guys like you tell me you're too tired to touch your wife, and yet when these guys have affairs, Dr. Phil, man, they're sleeping 1 hour a night and they're revving to go. You're bored, admit it. There's a certain boredom in the relationship, and she feels that she's not attractive to you and she's upset.
Absolutely. In your book it said about feeling like a woman first, and I absolutely do not feel that way. I feel like I'm the housekeeper and the mother and everything else besides just being a woman, and I feel I'm too young to just I need to feel that way.
So y'all were out here last night.
Yes.
We had you in the hotel. No kids, right?
Right.
So it's just the two of you. You're in Hollywood. You're in a great hotel in Hollywood. No kids, just the two of you. So I assume you were just rocking the building.
Absolutely not. we fell asleep.
So why not last night?
This morning we did make up for it slightly.
Boy, we figured out how to solve your problem with sexual inactivity. Just book yourself on the Dr. Phil show. It's like cramming for an exam. Let's get one in before we go up there so we got something to say. Are you and your partner just not in the mood for sex every day? I mean, you just always have an excuse. There's always an obstacle. There's always a distraction. Or is the sex that you do have seem like you're just going through the motions? It's routine. Now, Rabbi Shmuley is joining me today because he says more couples use sex as a sedative rather than an arouser. And that is exactly what Kim says her husband Adam is all about. Rabbi, explain what you mean.
Well, think about this. We have dinner because we get hungry, and then once we finish having dinner, we're satiated and we're no longer hungry. That's how we treat sex. We have sex because we're horny. So we have it in order to not want it. That's bizarre. That's why the ancient tantric masters, for example, always said, you should have sex without climax. Sex should have a means orientation instead of a goal orientation. Sometimes you need to build arousal and build arousal over a few nights so he doesn't come home tired. You begin to live erotically. You're amazed because you have all this energy coursing through your veins. Now, I noticed in the notes about your marriage, Adam, you're a pretty jealous guy, aren't you?
Yeah.
You don't even like your wife wearing skirts because it's a bit suggestive, is that right?
Yeah.
And then you don't feel tired when you're jealous, right? And what is jealousy? Jealousy is a feeling that, oh my gosh, I can't be complacent about my wife because what if some guy wants her and wants her more than me, treats her better than me, and she begins to reciprocate his affection? Your tiredness comes from complacency. You think you have her. You don't. The first thing that a woman wants is to be the object of desire, and they can't, and they'll succumb to almost any guy that does that. And I don't mean literally or physically. I just mean that wives never tell their husbands about their fantasies about other men who make them feel desirable. And you know what? I think you're at the stage, Kim, when you have to start sharing those things with your husband. You guys have to start having erotic conversations, and you'll see him wake up. But that means you have to go beyond inhibitions. One of the most important erotic principles is called reckless abandon. It's where a man feels his wife is so hot, so desirable, that he'll do crazy stuff. And that's why Dr. Phil was asking you. You're sitting there in a hotel in Hollywood. Where was the crazy stuff? Well, the crazy stuff was happening in your dreams, guys. You guys were asleep.
Okay, now Adam, what do you think about everything he's saying? Because I get the feeling that this is just going over your head, and you're kind of like, hey, whatever. Be honest. I mean, it's all about being honest.
I agree that we do need to talk more and stuff like that, but I just... What did you say? But sometimes, usually when we start out talking, it ends up in a fight.
And you say she's a prude?
When we first met, there was like no place safe. You know what I mean? It was just, but now it's just.
Adam, what Dr. Phil is saying, and it's such an important point, is there's so much life in you. You're a young, sexy, attractive guy, and your wife desires you so deeply, and that's why she's fighting with you. You ought to be complimented that she's doing it in the wrong way, to be sure. She's fighting you because she wants more of you, and she doesn't know how to get it. And when you sit there saying, I have nothing to offer, even the people around here, you have no credibility on that. We know that she loves you for a reason, and we know that you have a special gift. So part of that gift is your love to her. Have you taken your wife recently to a dress shop and have her model clothing and helped her choose what she looks sexy in? Have you guys done that?
No.
He tells me I spend too much money.
Okay. and if you want to be one of those really courageous guys, you go to Victoria's Secret and you start doing crazy stuff and she feels, my God, look how much he wants me. Now, how difficult is something like that?
If we go into Victoria's Secret together, he sweats.
All right, I got to take a break.
Me getting a boob job, would it be changing my hair color?
Try role playing. Role playing might work.
Well, today we've been talking about how to stop fighting and have more sex in your relationship. There's a lot of stress out there right now, and it really does distract people. They don't sleep as well, they don't eat as well, they stop exercising, and they stop having sex. Now, the health benefits of sex extend well beyond the bedroom. Turns out, sex is good for you in ways you may never have imagined. Number one, it relieves stress. Number two, it boosts immunity. Number three, it burns calories, improves cardiovascular health, and it does boost your self-esteem because you feel desired. Now, let me ask you guys something here, because I want to bring this full circle to create change. You heard me saying to Mark and Joy, you got to behave your way to success, right? Rabbi, you agree with that? You got to behave your way to success. And the stranger and more structured it feels, like you think, well, this should be natural. This should just come naturally. The more strange it feels to have to paint by the numbers, the more you need to be painting by the numbers, because the fact that it feels awkward or strange tells you how far off center you really are. You've got to recognize that you've got to do something different here. You need to stop attacking. You may feel justified. It will not work. It is not erotic. It is not arousing. It is off-putting. If you attack and call names and belittle and demean, and you guys have 2 children. You pregnant?
Yes.
You got 1 on the way.
Yes.
So we know there's some activity.
At least 3 times.
Yeah, we know they've had it 3 times, okay? But this is a time that you don't wait for your partner. You need to wake up every day and ask yourself, what can I do today to put sex back in this marriage? You need to wake up every day and say, what can I do today? Not sit there and wait for him, well, I will if he will, I will if she will. It's not about a standoff. It is about you taking personal responsibility for the climate inside your marriage. And you can do that. Do you agree with me on this?
Sure. And especially now, it's interesting that pregnant women actually crave and enjoy sex more than women who aren't pregnant. Yeah, you'd be amazed. There's increased blood flow to the genital region. There are so many hormones racing around the body. Women who are, and studies have even proven that women who are pregnant have very sexual dreams. Share some of those with them.
Do you have a story or a question for me? Click the link in the description and tell me what in the world is going on.